to the Titletown Huddle on thegruelingtruth.net.
Welcome to the Titletown Huddle at thegruelingtruth.net. My name is Joe Pritchard, and with me is Aaron Zepnick, and we're also welcoming a special guest here, our first former Packer on the show. Titletown Huddle, welcome to Don Horn. Don, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, doing great, guys. Thank you very much. Got some great memories back there in the land of the frozen tundra.
Well, that is great to hear. Actually, one of the questions I was meaning to ask here is if you felt any sort of bond to the Packers or any of the former teams you had played with here, and it sounds like just from that response, there's at least something still there for you.
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I know a lot of former players and a lot of former Packers, and everybody pretty much to a T says, once a Packer, always a Packer. And I was very fortunate in my career, even though it was cut short because of injuries, et cetera, but I caught the tail end of that great era, of the 60s, the team of the decade, with Bart and Zeke and all those Hall of Famers back there in the late 60s, and fortunate to be a rookie in Super Bowl II. Those are memories I'll never forget.
So, Don, this is Aaron. I just wanted to know, did they do the riding of the bikes back when you played? Did they start that early?
Oh, you bet. Yeah, you bet. Okay. Yeah, we did all that. Yeah, Of course, that stadium has changed a lot since then. And,
absolutely.
We used to come out there, and the kids getting the bikes, and we'd ride those down to the practice field down there across. What was it? Is it Oneida down there? The name of that street down there? I forget the name of it. Right?
Yes,
right
it's
south
Oneida.
of, yeah, and and then they had the bleachers there, and and then we had 2,000 or 3,000 people sat there, and in those little 2 or 3 bench high bleachers, and watch us practice day in and day out. It was great times. Great times.
Yeah. The reason I asked that is, I'm 40 now, but when I was 13, 14, I was up there every day during 2-a-day camps. During the summer, I was riding. Keith Woodside was my first guy that I rode from
really?
Texas A&M back in '89. So that tells you how much just a neat tradition. Nobody else has that in the NFL. I think it's pretty neat.
It's pretty unique for sure. I mean, I was kind of taken away the first time I saw it, in the summer of '67, and I was just all the kids and the smile on their faces and how you'd ride their bike, and they'd be jogging and running next to you, and it was just a great time, great memories.
Absolutely. One other question I had here for you is, who was the person when you played that you feared? Or I don't want to say feared, but who did you game plan for? Who did you look, at your schedule and go, oh, man, this guy's going to be a tough matchup? Or, the most feared guy, I guess, for lack of better terms, who was that one guy that you just didn't enjoy playing against?
Well, I mean, there's probably a few of them, but probably the one that sticks up the most was, Dick Butkus. But you could take him, and there's 2 or 3 guys on that Bear team back in the late 60s down there, especially when you played them down in Chicago. Man, they were mean. They were mean. They were rough. They were gruff, physically and mentally. They try to abuse you. And Dick was one hell of a ball player. He was one great middle linebacker, and that was even when he had bad knees. No telling how good he could have been if he had had good knees, but he was just a great guy. And I know Vince Lombardi had a lot of respect for him, so much that he had to revamp the blocking on the famous Lombardi sweep just to handle Butkus, because Butkus would chase it from behind, and he could read it and catch the the running back from behind all too often. And Vince was just amazed how quick he was. What a great athlete he was.
one of the questions I've always had is I've always been a fan of the game. I've never had a lot of it. I've had no experience in coaching the game or playing the game at a high level here. So I guess the question I have for you is, what do you see fans getting wrong more often than not? When you see fans saying, hey, they're thinking that somebody did something wrong here, but what do you think that the fans get wrong more often than not when they're watching a game?
Well, I mean, kind of, that's a good question. I mean, a lot of times, see, back in, it's a different game today, and such when we played, we were all calling our own plays, pretty much. We had the ability to audible every now and then, and we were all, pretty well tutored to the nth degree by Coach Lombardi, in the quarterback meetings. But a lot of things people don't realize is that, you get in the huddle and all of a sudden one of your, like maybe your guard or, maybe Kramer or somebody would say, lay off me for a play or two. I just got a cramp, or I just got a Charlie horse in my calf, or I just got my foot stepped on or something or whatever, and just lay off me for a play or two or something. And I've had running backs say that. I've had linemen say that. And then you say, well, gosh, how come they didn't run that play and have that guard make that trap, or have, run that sweep or something. And the reason why you didn't call it that particular time, even though it was a good time to call that play, is because, people inside the huddle during the field of battle, the time of battle, was said, wait, I'm not 100%, or I'm 80 or 70%. Give me a couple plays to get back in the swing of things, so we can execute this play properly. And a lot of the times the coaches don't even understand that or realize that on the sidelines. But that was back in the old days. Today, I mean, it's just a different game today to play and to watch.
Well, Don, that's a great point that actually brings up another question. Did you ever need a play or two where you're like, oh, I can't throw, I can't throw this play?
Well, there are always a couple that I remember that I wish I'd had those plays back. Everybody says, if you had all to do over again, would you do it? And I said, I certainly would in a heartbeat, but there's 4 or 5 plays on passes I'd like to have back.
Yeah, it gives you a different insight when you hear that from someone that's been on the field of battle at that level. And by the way, I wanted to thank you for your service. I wanted to start off with that, but I read a little bit more about you, obviously, and I wanted to say thank you for your dedication to fighting for our freedom. And you're very welcome. It's something. It's something that you didn't have a choice back in the days of the NOM era, and you had to go in and pull your duty. And I wish I'd, I mean, it's something the best way to say this, I would never do it again, but I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I had the experience of going through and experiencing that, but I'd never want to do it again. Well, you're the reason I stand for the national anthem, and I salute. I stand at attention with my hand over my heart.
Amen. That's what you stand at attention. You don't chew gum. You don't move around. That's that's old school. That's the proper way to do it. I had friends of mine and college buddies of mine that unfortunately had went overseas, and I never saw them again. And but it's society today. I don't know. It's just things are different today, gentlemen.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
So, Joe, did you want to ask the question about the season so far? Or?
Yeah, we can go ahead and get this on a little bit of a lighter note here going forward. I guess, Don, if you've been able to see any of the games this year, what are your general impressions of how the Packers have started off this year?
Well, I think they got a little surprise there in Minnesota. Minnesota's looking good this year. I don't know. They have their number. And who do they catch next week? The Giants coming in next week or this week?
Yes.
Yeah, and and over the years, in those big games, they've had a tough time with the Giants. But I think it's like if we keep improving every week, we have the ability to get in the playoffs. And once you get in the playoffs, it's a whole nother season. But you got to get there. And they had a pretty good game against Detroit, and I know they got to face Minnesota again, but you're going to catch them, up in Lambeau, which is an asset, I think. But it's going to be, it's no day at the beach. It's going to be kind of a rocky road, but I think they have the character, and they can pull it off this year. I'm sure pulling for them. I know you guys are too.
Absolutely. So leading us up to the game on Sunday, so who do you think wins that game and why? And do you have a score prediction for our listeners?
I learned a long time ago. I don't think, I'm going to say, the Packers for sure, but the score, I mean, a little bit of knowledge is the worst thing to have, and I don't care if it's by 1 point or by 3 touchdowns. I want the green and gold,
Yeah,
all right.
Definitely. I'm sure that both of us are going to be picking the Packers this week too. They definitely have.
You'd better. Heck, I mean, if you don't, old Fuzzy's going to roll over his grave if you guys don't.
Absolutely. I actually grew up right near where he grew up. I grew up in Chippewa Falls. He grew up in Altoona, and that's not very far away from each other here. So, definitely got the legend of Fuzzy Thurston all through my childhood as well. But yeah, we're definitely we're most likely both picking the Packers here. They do seem to have some offensive potency, and we can just hope that the defense can keep them at bay this week.
Yeah, the defense. The defense has to step up, and it's good to have Jordy back this year. He's doing a hell of a job so far, and you just gotta take care of Aaron back there and give him a little more time, and get the job done. They got to get better every week, and it's a long season, injuries, etc., a little bit of luck and whatever. It's a long season, but get some holy water down there and throw it on the field and pray for the best.
Absolutely. So what was it like playing for Vince Lombardi? I think that's amazing. I heard growing up all these stories about Vince from my father, who was really good friends with Fuzzy and spent a lot of times at Fuzzy's establishments here in Green Bay. What was it like playing for Coach Lombardi?
It was amazing. A lot of people say, excuse me, I played my college ball with, with Don Coryell, and then, wide open passing type of an offense, and throw the heck out of the ball. And a lot of people said the worst thing to happen, and for my as a player, was going from, that type of an atmosphere where a wide open offense to coming to Green Bay and very predictable 3 yards, cloud of dust, very high percentage type of a running game, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. And playing for Coach Lombardi, I mean, he was one of those guys that everything I tell people, everything you hear about him and read about him is pretty much true, and I'd say magnify it 5 or 10-fold. He had an uncanny ability to he would take you, which is totally opposite of every motivational speaker today in the country, I think, and for the last 20 years or plus. But he would take you in private and build you up, give you compliments, get your confidence up, give you all types of compliments and everything in private. And then 5 minutes later, you'd be out there in the field, and he would just undress you. I mean, you'd sit there and, wait a minute, I'm the same guy you just told, would be, and then he would just undress you in front of everybody. But he treated pretty much everybody like that. And great motivator. He'd always push you to do better, never be satisfied, with what you did. You could always do better. And of course, that carried on both, on the field as well as off the field as you get older. So, great guy. I was around him for just 2 years, and I wish I could have played, longer with him. But he left, and then a year and a half later, he passed away, unfortunately. But in fact, I still have a lot of Lombardi stuff in my office and Lombardi scenes and and things like that all the time. And I always quote him pretty much when I go speak at various places that are, around the state of Colorado. So, everybody wants to hear Vince Lombardi stories, and rightfully so. One great motivator.
Well, I'm glad to hear that the stories and the legends that have been passed down through the years are all very much true. I guess what doesn't get mentioned is after Lombardi had left as the coach, Phil Bankston took over. You don't hear a lot of stories about the Bankston takeover because things didn't go as well. Is there a way you can kind of compare the two and how things go differently?
It was just as far there was no comparison. There wasn't even close. And what's that old Peter principle, whatever? I mean, Phil Bankston, was a great defensive coordinator, but a terrible offensive, head coach. He just couldn't command the respect of his players, and just didn't have the leadership qualities or whatever as a head coach. But defensive coordinator, he's fantastic. They got a similar one out here in Denver with the Broncos. Wade Phillips. He's a great defensive coordinator, probably one of the top 1 or 2 or 3 in the country. Defensive knowledge and coordinator or whatever, and he's failed a couple of times as a head coach. He just doesn't have that quality, that unknown, whatever it may be, to guide and lead a team. From that perspective, but. One notch down as a coordinator, there's none better, and that's the way Phil was. But unfortunately, and of course, trying to fill Vince Lombardi's shoes, who's going to do that? I mean,
no, very unlikely to. No.
Yeah, I mean, who would even want to try that? I mean, would they? They used to say, the old jokes about God and Vince Lombardi and all that stuff. God maybe not even wanted to try to fill those shoes when he left. But those are great days back there in the late 60s, great days. And what I love about Green Bay and even the team today, just the tradition. And, I go all over the country today doing, talking to a lot of former ball players and trying to help them out with some other stuff that I'm doing. And, we see running the Packer fans. I mean, there's Packer fans all across this country. You cannot believe the amount of Packer fans that they're everywhere. So, and that's good. It makes me feel good.
I can even see that one of the more popular fan groups on Twitter these days is the United Kingdom Packer fans group that watches, stays up till 3 a.m. For the night games, and the Packers definitely have cast their magic all over the world.
Like I have an old friend of mine. He's still down in Milwaukee, and he's from Scotland. And years ago, he asked me. I sent an autographed picture to some friend of his that owns a bar there somewhere in Scotland, and it's supposedly a Packer bar. I've never been over there to see it, but I got to get over there. But he says it's the same type of scenario. They love American football, and he's got them in the Packer fold. So I know there's a Packer bar over there someplace in Aberdeen or something like that. So it's great times.
That's amazing. Scotland, Packer bars. I've heard of Packer bars in Minnesota and Texas, and California and stuff, but in another country, that's just something else.
Yeah, and that's something. Yeah, so. Well, the legend and the tradition. It just lives on and on and on.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on being a Super Bowl champion and a former Packer quarterback. You have millions of people that would give anything to walk in those shoes. So thanks for taking the time to come on with us, Don. And
you're very welcome, guys. And when you get a chance, I understand Bart's doing pretty good, but always say a prayer for Bart if you would.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that will be done.
Okay, partner. Good talking to you guys. Go Pack, go.
Thanks again, Don. Go Pack.
Okay. Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Don. And we'll be back right after this on the Titletown Huddle.
Get in the Titletown Huddle with Joe Pritchard and Aaron Zepnick on thegruelingtruth.net.
Welcome back to the Titletown Huddle, and we just had Don Horn on, and we had a nice, probably about 20-minute discussion with Don about the past and just a tiny bit of talking prognostication for this week's games as well. Aaron, I'm definitely glad we had him.
Yeah, it was a great time. Hopefully our listeners will enjoy the tradition like Don spoke about and the great legends that have been here and touched this hallowed ground of the frozen Tunderland, as he called it. And I'm honored to be able to talk to the man, and I want to thank Mike Goodpaster for getting the lead to have Don come on. It was very much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. We will definitely want to speak to Don again in the future, that's for sure. But we do have a game to talk about here this week as well. The Giants coming into Lambeau on Sunday night, looking to put a win up on the Packers. And they've been one of the more successful teams over the years against the Packers. So what are you expecting to see out of this game?
My X factor is Sam Shields again. I mean, if he's still out, and it sounds like there's a chance that he could play, but I don't know if he's there yet. So, the X factor is Sam Shields and Odell Beckham. How is he going to be emotionally? There's been some off the field or on the sideline type issues with his emotions. Right now, I feel like they're an emotional roller coaster. But Eli Manning seems to always have very good games against the Packers. I'm not sure if it's the uniform colors or what, but he tends to have some of his most poised games where he does not turn the ball over against the Packers, and I'm hoping that we can end that trend this Sunday night.
Right, and making turnovers against this Giants team was definitely going to be in the Packers' game plan here, especially with the way their defense is structured. They just tend to bend and don't break and hope that the other team makes a mistake. If they can force Eli into mistakes, it's going to be a good night. If not, though, do you think the offense has enough juice to overcome the Giants' defense?
Yeah, I definitely do. I think the defense, their secondary is a little bit banged up, although they have Janoris Jenkins, who's pretty tough player. I look for the Packers to get down to the I think they'll be able to run the ball against the Giants' defense with some success. And I also think they're going to get down to that Devontae Adams-Randall Cobb matchup on their third corner. I think that's where it's really going to be relevant. And Richard Rodgers should be a big piece of this game as well. I don't think they have too many linebackers that are real good cover guys, and if they're covering the linebacker, or if they're covering the tight end, with the safety, that leaves some one-on-one matchups that Aaron, I think, can exploit, especially, like I said, with that third corner.
Right, and unfortunate that Jared Cook doesn't seem like he's going to be available this week. That may have helped the matchup issue there. So what do you got as far as score goes this week?
I'm going Packers 34, Giants 17. Maybe a 28-17, 34-17, something like that. I think we'll actually be able to score points. Being at home is a huge boost. And Aaron Rodgers had a pretty good game against Detroit in the first half. I don't see McCarthy being super conservative again. I think he saw what happened, what potentially could have happened in the Detroit game. I think they'll keep the pedal to the metal and get a 17-point win this week.
All right. I'm thinking it's going to be a little bit closer. I've got the Packers by a touchdown at 31-24. I'm thinking this game is going to be decided in the last few minutes, and it's just going to be whichever team gets the ball with a chance to take the lead late is going to make the most of that opportunity, and I've got the Packers doing that this week. Hopefully it's a fantastic game, as I'll actually be in the stands this week, and hopefully holding up some signs with promoting the Titletown Huddle.
Sounds great. And one thing to note here too, Joe, Ben McAdoo making his return to Lambeau Field. I think some emotions might be, involved there. I mean, he was, good part of our offense for a good number of years with Mike McCarthy, and I think that right now his team is not responding well as far as on the sideline things. This may be just what they need, going into your coach's old playground and showing, hey, he can do this, and we're here to play for him. They might play some inspired ball, and it might be a closer game, but I just think the Packers have too much talent for them.
Right, and when it comes down to scheme versus execution, you're going to take execution every time. And if the Packers can do what they want to do on offense, it's going to be a long day for the Giants. And if the Packers jump out to a big lead, I could see the Giants potentially becoming emotionally unraveled. I don't see my prediction is not that that'll happen, but that's my hope.
Yeah, and I don't think you'd be far off predicting that. That's kind of what I'm predicting. Is I just don't think that they're poised enough with a first-year head coach. For years the Giants have faced the distraction of, will Tom Coughlin be fired? That distraction's over. Now they have a new distraction. It's a player distraction. I don't think it ends well for players like Terrell Owens and Des Bryant, Odell Beckham, kind of following in that same wide receiver prima donna persona, and I see it being more of their Achilles heel than a shot in the arm.
No, and he took off so fast as well. He was almost an instant sensation after that fantastic fingertip grab early on in his rookie year, and it spiraled out of control so fast for him. It's hard for a young guy like that to be able to handle so much so fast here. So as a fan of football, I'm hoping he gets a chance to get it together here, but there's so many examples of a player having a great start and then just absolutely flaming out here, and that seems to be the path he's going to be going on at this point.
Yeah, and it's sad because he is definitely talented, very good hands, pretty good skill set on the field. It's sad when players, can't handle that stardom, or they can't put their emotions in check. And, he has even said, he said something to ESPN this week about not having fun anymore. Having fun and playing football should go hand in hand, especially when you're making the money that these guys are making. It should be pretty easy to have fun, you'd think. But for some reason, Josh Norman got in his head last year, and ever since then he's been kind of this, sensitive sweater type wearing guy that I just don't understand what the big deal is that, he's letting corners get in his head. And, I know the first interview he did after that, big catch, when he was asked, how do you shut an Odell Beckham down? And he said, get in my head. He gave people the formula to shut him down. So I don't understand why you would put that out there, but
no. In this case, the flippant "you don't" response would have probably been a little bit more beneficial to him going forward.
Absolutely. I'd rather sound arrogant than sound like a big baby that, hey, if you get in my head, I'll shut down, because it's kind of what he's doing.
Yeah, now he gets to face Josh Norman twice a year, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the matchup. The one thing that does scare me about the Giants is the three, talented receivers they have, with Sterling Shepard, the emerging rookie, Victor Cruz looking like his 2013 self again, and, of course, Odell Beckham can score from anywhere on the field, and, that is scary, but I have a feeling that we're going to make them one-dimensional, because I don't think their running game is very strong right now with Rashad Jennings banged up. I'm not sure if he's playing or not. But Orleans Darkwa is not a guy that, on paper anyway, you line up and go, well, he could go for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. I just don't see it, especially the way the is played.
Yeah, he probably didn't get a lot of play on the Grueling Truth Fantasy Show, that's for sure.
No, we talked about him a little bit, but not much.
All right. Well, we got just a couple more things we want to touch base on for this show here. We did ask the question last week, what your favorite memory of the Green Bay Packers was, and Aaron, you responded the rainy playoff win versus San Francisco in 1996. We also had a couple listeners chime in as well here. Wendy Lynn Moore went with Brett Favre's game on Monday night after his dad had passed away, and she mentioned that she was cheering through the tears. And Wayne Pritchard, who happens to be my father, said the Ice Bowl. That was the first game he had watched of the Packers at the age of 10. So I've got a couple of those here. Myself, there's so many to pick from, but I would have to say the first Super Bowl win was just, I never expected it to happen, especially after the 3 years of misery losing to the Cowboys in the playoffs in succession. I kind of thought that might have been our chance, but making it happen in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, that was definitely my favorite memory of the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, that's a great memory as well. I was 20 years old when that happened, and I remember being bummed because I couldn't legally drink at that point.
I'm sure there were ways at that point if you wanted to, but just the win itself.
Well, I'm not saying I didn't, but I was bummed that I couldn't legally go out with the people that were going to the establishments in Green Bay, and I was part of the celebration. Let's just say that. But I just wanted to share. Don Horn has liked our Titletown Huddle page, so if former Packers on there and you wanna have the interaction with the former Packer on the Titletown Huddle page, the opportunities are there.
All right, excellent. So that is good to see here as well. And then we will be posting a question for this next week here. By the time the Giants game is over, we'll have reached the quarter pole of the season. So we're asking our fans here, what grade would you give the Packers so far and why?
That's a great question, Joe. I can answer that, but I'll wait and see what some fans say, I think. I want to see what our listeners have to say before they hear us grade them out. We'll grade them next week.
Yeah, that's definitely in the cards for next week here. Any final thoughts for this week?
Just hope that we can stay healthy in this game. We got kind of banged up in the Detroit game, hoping everyone's back and ready to roll. Clay Matthews would be a huge shot in the arm, obviously, and I think Jared Cook being banged up is going to take a little bit of a toll, but I'm hoping that he'll be good to go next week if he can't go this week. So with these injuries that they don't talk about a lot, it seems like they drag out, and it's 2, 3, and 4 weeks, but Shields and Burnett are the two biggest ones that I'm interested in, because I think our secondary, you take 50% of the starting secondary off of any team, and there's a little bit of a drop-off. So I'm anxious to see those two gentlemen back in the defensive backfield.
Yes, the sooner the better, especially with the matchup this week here. But we've already touched or covered our bases on that here. So if that's everything you've got this week, my name is Joe Pritchard with Aaron Zepnick, and you've been listening to the Titletown Huddle at thegrowingtruth.net, where the legends speak.
Thank you for listening to the Titletown Huddle on thegrowingtruth.net.